Grumbling, part 2. Here we go. So we're still in Philippians chapter 2, but we're going to go to the next couple of verses. We did verse 14 this last time. We're going to go to verse 15 and 16, but I first want to mention one person, and that is Sara. And I say this in particular because although men do have a problem with grumbling, I would have to say that women may have a bigger problem with grumbling, but maybe not. Nevertheless, Sara is a good example, and even Peter and Paul refer to Sara as a good example. So let's go ahead and just talk about how she reacted when God said he was going to give her a child well, I guess she was 99 years old. She was supposed to have a child. And she was far past the ability to have children. How did she react? Did she grumble against God? Did she? Did she say, he has no idea what he's talking about? Did she grumble against God? Did she grumble against her husband, Abraham? No. She did laugh. She laughed. It says Sara laughed. But God didn't punish her for it. She laughed because it's funny. But God didn't punish her for it. So that must have been a laugh that wasn't out of a lack of faith. It was just a laugh out of the fact of juxtaposing this, that I haven't had a child this whole time. God could have given me a child this whole time, and now I'm going to have a child. You know? And so if it were a laugh out of a lack of faith, then she would have been opening herself for punishment by God. But the fact that God didn't punish her meant that it wasn't due to a lack of faith on Sarah's part. So it was just something that struck her as strange. But she didn't grumble. And that's very interesting to note. So let's go back and look at this again. So verse 14, Philippians 2, said, you must be doing all things at a distance apart from grumblings and laying forth through dialogue to dispute. Now the to dispute is disputable. It's literally and discussing. So don't discuss it. Don't sit down and try to pick it apart, analyze it, and do all these things. No, just go do it. And definitely don't grumble. You must be doing apart from, at a distance from grumbling and discussing. Verse 15, in order that, this is why. Paul says why this is so important to you as a believer and follower of Jesus Christ. In order that you may cause yourself to be blameless and unmingled children of God, without flaw, in the middle of a warped and dry generation, having been thoroughly twisted, the generation, in which you are being shined, in that manner a light shining in a whole collection of individuals holding upon a word of life. That's why. Because if you're grumbling and you're discussing everything rather than doing, then you're not that light. You're not different then from the whole collection of individuals of this generation. You're no different. You look just like them. You sound just like them. You behave just like them. Because you're not doing at a distance from grumbling and discussing. You're intermingling grumbling and discussing with doing. Or maybe not even getting around to doing. But you can't be intermingled and end up tripping on that and grumbling, or tripping on that and discussing and just separating every single thing and analyzing until it's absolutely gone. You can cut something into so many pieces until you don't even know what it was. And that's what analyzing does. There's some value to analyzing, but minimal analyzing, not continual discussing. You must be doing at a distance from discussing, at a distance from grumbling, in order that you may cause yourself to be blameless and unmingled children of God without flaw in the middle of a warped and dry generation, having been thoroughly twisted, in which you are being shined in that manner, a light shining in a whole collection of individuals. You are being shined. You are being shined. In that manner, a light shining in a whole collection of individuals, holding upon a word of life. That life is not found in grumbling, because those who grumbled in the desert died. That's not life. Death is not life. Those who grumbled died. And it says that this was written for our example, so that we will not also suffer dying and not enter the promised land, as they didn't enter the promised land. Even Moses wasn't allowed to, because of his mistakes. Serious mistakes. After having been saved out of Egypt, after we have been saved out of the whole collection of individuals called the world, we're in the desert, where our hearts are being tested, where we're hearing the gospel, just as they heard the gospel, it says. They heard the same gospel, it says. In Hebrews, it says, they heard the same gospel, but they did not combine it with persuasion or faith. And so they died. They fell because of disobedience, it says. You can't do that. You've got to keep separated at a distance from grumbling, at a distance from discussing everything, and be doing all things. May the Lord bless you as you seek Him with all your heart.